the college is constantly imagining and reimagining what it means to offer our students an education that truly matters, a consequential education, if you will. And you will also come to understand how we are taking steps to inspire our students to lead lives of consequence. So with that, Jamie, I turn it over to you, and I'm going to go muted.
Thank you so much, Jane, and thank you everybody for joining us today. We've been eager for this meeting, and it's good to see some familiar faces on Zoom as well. So if you just give me 1 second, I'm going to share my screen. But of course, when we do the Q&A, we'll be sure we'll stop sharing so we can see everybody better. Okay, hopefully that looks okay to everybody and you can all see it. If I give a thumbs up. Okay, perfect. So as Jane said in her opening, we're here today to talk about a consequential education and the Gettysburg approach, and the way in which the college is talking about itself today. And so to kick things off, I just want to say that it's really important in the type of work that both me and Carey do. So I'm in communications and marketing, as Jane said, and Carey is in enrollment. That in the work that we're doing, when we're thinking about how we're talking about and how we're going to promote the college, that the way that we're doing it is authentic. And so the best way to make sure we're doing that is to start with what we call our why. Why does Gettysburg College exist? So this is a nice big philosophical question to start our meeting. But by asking this question, it ensures that we're really starting at the foundation of who we are and why we're here. And so I would say that when we've done brand work and promotion work, we define our why as this: that we exist to graduate effective leaders and socially responsible citizens who will rise to the unfinished work of their time. So I'm going to break down this sentence a little bit and start with effective leaders and socially responsible citizens. These two phrases might look familiar to you because they're taken directly from the college's mission statement. The other part of this that should look familiar to you, of course, is what's in orange, and that's the unfinished work. And as we know, following the battle, President Lincoln arrived in Gettysburg at the invitation of David Wills, one of our graduates, to dedicate the National Cemetery. And it was to our community who walked with Lincoln to the cemetery that he said to us to be dedicated here to the unfinished work for which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. You might also be aware, and I love to have the opportunity to talk about this, that every year students and faculty and staff recreate that walk that we took with Lincoln all those years ago. And this is a tradition that's called the First Year Walk. And this is a photo just from last year. So it's a pretty lofty charge. Our why is pretty lofty. And if we truly believe what we say we believe and why we exist, and we take it to heart to be dedicated to the unfinished work, to graduate effective leaders and socially responsible citizens, it's an incredible responsibility that we have, but it's also a really important opportunity as well. So now that we understand our why we exist, the next question is how. How do we graduate these effective leaders and socially responsible citizens? And the answer we've come up with, and this is based on not just research that we've done in the past couple of years, but work that I think has been true of Gettysburg for as long as it has existed, that our how is very much by equipping students with what we are calling a consequential education. And we really feel like this idea of a consequential education very much speaks to both the weight and the responsibility and the purpose and potential that comes with it as well. So some of you might be familiar with the consequential education. We're in about years 3-ish, 4 of rolling this out and talking about it. It's been embedded in just about everything that we do. It's a rather lofty articulation. It sits right beside our mission statement, and maybe after this meeting, Jane can send out the full articulation. But at its heart, when we boil down a consequential education, I'm going to do this in 2 different ways. At its heart, students can expect that we promise each of them a consequential education, one that will give them greater insight into who they are, what they want to accomplish, and how they will define and lead their own consequential life. So consequential education itself is multiple paragraphs long. Like I'm saying, it sits alongside our mission statement. But when we boil it down, that's really at the heart of it. That sentence is really at the heart of it. The other way that we think about a consequential education is to break it down in 3 ways that make us distinct. Our 3 key attributes that we believe make our education consequential. First is our people, as you'll see on the bottom of the screen. Next is our place. And finally, our approach. That's what we're referring to as the Gettysburg approach that Carey will talk about at the end of this presentation. So no surprise, almost every college and university is talking about their people. They're probably also talking about their place. These are things that prospective students and families and alums want to hear. But when we did research the past couple of years, and even dating back, and this is one of my favorite stories to tell, the first time the college did any brand research, and what I mean by that is we interviewed students, current students, and when we interviewed prospective students and their families, we interviewed alums. The first time the college ever did that was in 1999. And so every couple of years when we're redoing the research and we're thinking about who the college is today, we always look back at what we learned before. And there are these common themes that come up time and time again, especially as it relates to our people and to our place. So I'm going to break down each one of these because even though every college is talking about their people and their place, it's important and I think super authentic in the way that Gettysburg is talking about it. And so first with our people, the one thing that kept popping up time and time again back in 1999 when we first did this research in interviews that my team is conducting with alums who graduated generations and decades ago, there's this word belief that comes up time and time again. And this is such a powerful word. And so when we say belief, what we mean is so many of our students and so many of our alums said to us that part of what they loved so much about Gettysburg is that people believed in them, that they believed in them even before our students really even believed in themselves. And so we talk about our belief in our students to do great work that in turn inspires that great work. The other way that we talk about our people is, again, another word that kept coming up in all of our research, and that's the word partnership. We treat our students as contributing colleagues. Every college has and talks about advising and how important the faculty, especially, and coaches are in advising. But something that rang true for us and was a common and resonant theme was that so many of our students and alums described it as a partnership, that they really felt like they were a contributing colleague. And so that's a word that we use when we're talking about the people and what students can come to expect here. And the last way we talk about our people is about the Gettysburg Network. It's each and every one of you, and it's our 32,000 alums who are all standby, ready to look out for one another and ready to help. The second part of a consequential education, and when you read it, you'll see these themes running through it, is about our place. And again, three things that ring true and that are constant. First, of course, is our historic location. Today's students want to change the world, and we're inviting them to study in a place that changed it. And so history is a really important part of how we talk about Gettysburg College today. The second part of our place, though, is about our geography and cities of influence. We are perfectly situated, as you know, we're close to DC, to Philadelphia, to Harrisburg. And so every day we see our students and we see our alums bringing about change through internships and service projects and careers. So we're talking about Gettysburg in terms of its historic location, but we're also talking about our place in terms of geography as well. And the last thing I'll end with, and this has been something that President Giuliano has really pushed in his 4 or 5 years here, is this idea of a forward-leaning orientation. That, of course, we're honoring our history, we're honoring our past, but we're not fixated on the past. We're instead inspired by it, and we're using it as a springboard to shape the future. And so we have this forward-leaning orientation when it comes to thinking about our history and how we're talking about how our history is inspiring what we do today. So our people and our place are constants across generations. Like I said, these are things that come up every time when we're doing research. People are using the same words, which I love. It's a really cool part of doing the research. But the one thing that has to change is our approach to education because, not surprisingly, students are changing, right? We are about to welcome in a couple of years Generation Alpha. Right now, Generation Z is on campus, and those students are different than millennials. They're different than Gen X. So students are changing, but society is changing. And as we all know, the workforce is changing as well, especially with things like the introduction of artificial intelligence. So even though our people and our place are constant, our approach to education, the type of education we deliver, has to respond to the changing needs of our time. So our answer today for how we're going to prepare students for the world that awaits is through what we're calling the Gettysburg approach. And in a couple of seconds here, I'm going to turn it over to Carey, and he's going to talk more about how specifically the Gettysburg approach is meeting this moment in time. He's going to talk about some research that sort of led to developing the Gettysburg approach, and he's going to talk about the different components and what students are experiencing today through the Gettysburg approach. But before we get there, I just wanted to share something with you that my team gets so excited about. Like I said, we've been talking about a consequential education and the Gettysburg approach for a couple of years now, and we're beginning to see Gettysburg own this word consequential because we're seeing it parroted back to us by prospective students and by alums as well. So I just wanted to share a couple of really powerful quotes with you that I think will resonate. And so these are quotes that were shared with us by the admissions team, and I'll just spend some time reading them. And so the first one says, as of today, I've interviewed 7 applicants with pending admit decisions. All of these students have mentioned that this idea of a consequential education is a major reason they chose to apply. 2 students mentioned they had not seen anything similar to a consequential education at other institutions they applied to. Another said that Gettysburg was her first choice school because she thought we offered something authentic with our promise, while other schools seemed like graduate factories. And finally, one student chatted with me about a consequential education for about a half an hour. And I love this one because she's taking ownership of it and she's evolving it into what she wants it to be. She shared how much she loved our promise and how it was articulated, and that she would take it even further. For her, the idea of a consequential education meant that a Gettysburg education imparted a responsibility, that a consequence of learning at Gettysburg would be a lifelong duty to do great work in her community and beyond. And so we love this so much because every day we are talking about these things, but it matters so much more when our community is embracing it, when they're taking hold of it, when they're parroting it back to us. Something else, and when these things pop up on social media is we see our alums, and I'll share an example just from last week. Russ Crane is an alum, 1992, using the word consequence as he describes his education. And we're seeing this more frequently the longer that we're talking about a consequential education. And almost every time it pops up, there's someone in the office who you can hear shout a little bit because it's a really good mark to have the language parroted back to us through our different audiences. And so with that, I'm now going to turn it over to Carey, who's going to dig in a bit deeper to the Gettysburg approach and how it's meeting this moment in time.
Thank you, Jamie. Hi, everybody. I'm pleased to be here. My name is Carey Thompson. I'm Vice President for Enrollment and Educational Services. I'm completing my 3rd year at Gettysburg. I've been involved in college admission and financial aid and a number of other areas for my entire career at 3 other liberal arts colleges. So I've been involved with admission for a long time. And let me echo Jamie's comments about the importance of our message and the consistency of that message and the reward that comes to us when we hear students give us that message back and make it real. That last quote from that 17-year-old was particularly powerful. She's going to make it her own and to take it and to do great work. So we're excited about the Gettysburg approach, and it took about a year to really develop it and in ways that made sense, in ways that we could encourage the whole campus to sing from the same sheet of music. Jamie and I have done, I don't know, Jamie, 25 or 30 presentations across campus to students and to faculty and to staff, helping them understand how this works and how important it is for the college to sing off the same sheet of music. The Gettysburg approach really found its footing in a response to some research from AAC&U, the American Association of Colleges and Universities, and a study they had done that discovered the preparedness gap, so to speak, but a divide between employers and what they were looking for in their workforce, especially at the professional level, and college graduates who were coming to them and the skills that they had developed over the 4 years of college. So 6 in 10, as you can see from the slide, said college graduates were prepared. That meant 40% or more of employers viewed college graduates as having the necessary skills to be successful in those first couple years of employment. So next slide, please. So Thus was born the Gettysburg approach, and it rests on four anchors. A breadth and depth of knowledge. We've been talking about a breadth and depth of knowledge at Gettysburg College for almost 200 years. There's nothing new there in that sense. But the rigorous education in the liberal arts and sciences, the placing small numbers of students into classes with faculty who are literally experts in their field, that has been a hallmark of a Gettysburg education for a long, long time. So the Gettysburg approach rests on that very foundational concept of who we are and what we do. Added to that, though, was some thinking and reflection on the skills that breadth and depth of knowledge helps develop, and connecting those skills, we call them enduring skills, that are valued most intently by employers and graduate schools. So we're going to talk a little bit about those enduring skills over the next couple of slides. We added to that something that has long been a hallmark of the Gettysburg experience for our students, that relationship between students and faculty as academic advisors and advisees. And we wanted to build on that. We're pretty good at that academic advising relationship, but we know that students really need a 360-degree support network of advisors, and perhaps you informally experience that here at the college with coaches or other staff around the college who became friends and mentors. But we wanted to formalize that, and so we've developed a personal advising team for each incoming student, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Part of what that personal advising team does is guide our students through what we're calling the guided pathways. And that's a more intentional approach to the co-curricular experiences that our students will pursue. For too long, we think our students have hopefully serendipitously found the right set of co-curricular experiences, but we really want our students to reflect on that part of their lives here at the college so that it's more intentional and perhaps more connected to the breadth and depth of knowledge that they're developing. So let's move on to the next slide. So the knowledge, the first anchor, the breadth and depth of knowledge. Our goal is to enhance our students' capacity to action so that they can become effective leaders and socially responsible citizens. They can think through problems using their critical thinking skills that they've developed. They have a foundation of knowledge and learn to pursue knowledge. We all know that just those 4 years, not enough to make a well-educated person, but hopefully we've set all of our graduates on a path to continue to pursue knowledge over the course of their lifetimes. And again, to grow as effective leaders and socially responsible citizens. The enduring skills that we've identified are these 7. We could have come up with 30. Certainly students learn more than 7 skills along the way, but these seem to resonate with all of our students, with our faculty, with our staff, with our alumni, and with employers. And we believe in the research that we've done, we can boil it down to these 7, so to speak. There are also you can remember 7, you can't remember 30, but adaptability, communication, creativity, intercultural fluency, increasingly important in this global world global experience that our students will march into. Leadership, problem solving, teamwork. We think these are timeless. You can each probably point to something in your Gettysburg experience that helped you grow along the way in developing these skills. Those things are still true. We're calling them out in very specific and intentional ways and asking our students to spend some time reflecting upon them. The guided pathways, we've identified 4. We think all of our students can find themselves in one of these 4 pathways: creativity, entrepreneurship and innovation, global citizenship and intercultural communication, justice and community change, leadership, teamwork, and collaboration. Again, we think these are fundamental to most students' experiences. And they can pursue their co-curricular lives with these themes in mind and reflect upon these themes as they take part in those co-curricular experiences. Every student, in addition, will have a 4-year career pathway. So they will have an advisor that guides them through, a consistent advisor that guides them through over the course of their 4 years. The newest part of the Gettysburg approach is a focus on career-ready experiences, and we're going to guarantee that to each student so that they have, as they walk in the door, a sense and a vision for themselves of how they want to best prepare for that career-ready experience. That experience could take various different forms. You can see them listed there. Perhaps they're in an internship, perhaps they're working in a Center for Public Service project, or working through the Center for Global Experience. There are all kinds of ways students can prepare themselves. Again, intentionality is a big part of how we're asking students to think about these things. Serendipity is important. And that happens almost every day on a college campus. But to lend a foundation of intentionality to that experience, we think can be very important and give students the language that they need to explain to employers, to explain to graduate schools what it is they just experienced and how they've grown from that experience. So the personal advising team is the fourth component of the Gettysburg approach. We have 4 advisors that a typical student will have. The faculty advisor, again, that's not new. That's been happening at Gettysburg for decades in a formal sort of way. What is new is the co-curricular advisor, who each student will have a co-curricular advisor that will guide them through the co-curricular experience and through the guided pathways. I mentioned a career advisor. Gone are the days where you might walk in the career office and have a few questions and somebody at the desk might answer them. We have a very, again, intentional, that's a word I'm using intentionally a good bit, an intentional approach where a student will have a dedicated career advisor over the course of their 4 years, somebody who will get to know them well, someone who the student will get to know well, so that they can develop a really collaborative, thoughtful approach over the course of 4 years. And they won't be that student like me once upon a time who wandered into the career services office in his middle of his senior year and said, "What's next?" Again, we want students to think about these sorts of experiences over the course of their 4 years. Lastly, the alumni mentor. We see this as a really important addition to the personal advising team. Students can choose to have an alumni mentor. That's somebody they might meet with 3 or 4 times over the course of their junior or senior year, or much more, depending on the relationship that develops. But the alumni mentor will serve as someone to introduce that student to the 32,000 strong network of Gettysburg alumni who can help that student step into the next phase once they leave here. We think this all rests on a proven approach, and what we've seen over time. We did a survey a few years ago where we've asked employers to rate Gettysburg graduates against graduates of other places. And you can see from this chart, from this set of graphs, that our graduates truly exceed. So we think we're onto something. We're taking advantage of something that already exists. That way we know it's authentic to Gettysburg. But the foundation that we're building from is really quite strong, and we have a good bit of data to suggest that this, again, is authentic to the college.
Thanks,
Jamie, I think I'll turn it back over to you.
back to me. So we're really excited about the Gettysburg approach, and the class of 2027, the students who are first year students right now, they were the first class who could opt into the Gettysburg approach. So it's not yet required. Maybe it will be someday, but for now it was an opt-in. So we were really excited that 78% of the first year class decided that they wanted to take part of the Gettysburg approach. And now all of those students have completed their, almost done in about a month or so, have completed the first part of their pathway experience. They've been meeting with their co-curricular advisor and their faculty advisor. At the end of next year, they'll get their alumni mentor. And so the next class coming in, class of 2028, will also have the opportunity to opt in to the Gettysburg approach as well. But what this slide is showing is something else that's been really great, is that we are getting some third-party recognition, some third-party testimony from the media, from the AAC&U, who Carey mentioned before, about the elements of the Gettysburg approach, and that people like Ashley Finley. So Ashley Finley is the vice president of the American Association of Colleges and Universities. She's the one who studied and surveyed and authored that report that Carey talked about in the beginning about the preparedness gap. She was on campus in the fall for an event called the Summit of the Future. And she remarked that, and I'll just read it here, one of higher education's greatest pressure points is the need for colleges to innovate in ways that effectively prepare students to succeed as professionals and citizens, while also being authentic to their institutional mission. The Gettysburg approach has nailed this balance. I'm excited to share this incredible model with other schools around the country. So we're feeling really good about the Gettysburg approach, not only because of the experience our students are having, but because of all of this additional expertise and support that we have around it as well. And finally, before we get to questions, Carey alluded to some of the content that we've been creating to support it. And so I can follow up with Jane after this presentation, but there's a series of videos, for example, that we've created where we've gone on site and met with many of our alums. And now we have a whole series of videos that are our alums speaking about the enduring skills that they've gained at Gettysburg and how they're using those skills in their day-to-day lives. And so when Jane follows up after this, I'll be sure that she can send a YouTube link so you all can dig into these videos a bit more. But if you don't mind, Carey and I we wanted to end with one of these videos. It's the one on the bottom right-hand corner. This is one of our students. She graduated last year. Her name's Thea. And she does an amazing job of bringing together everything. It took Carey and I 32 minutes to do. But in this video, you'll hear her talk about a consequential education and the Gettysburg approach and what it will mean for what it would have meant for her education and what it will mean for students' education moving forward. So I need to stop sharing for a second and then reshare once I get the video up. So bear with me for one moment. Okay, thumbs up if you guys can see it. Yeah, okay.
I want to live a consequential life. I want to make a difference. Everything I learned at Gettysburg deepens my understanding of the world. And everywhere I go is reminded that together, we can change it. The Gettysburg approach has given me a breadth of knowledge and the enduring skills I need to take my next step forward, and every step after throughout the entirety of my career. From my friends and faculty to my own personal success team, at Gettysburg College, I am surrounded by a community that believes in me and in who I can become. I will make a difference. I will live a consequential life. Because a great education lasts a lifetime.
Okay, so with that, and hopefully, by the way, in that video, you heard some of the words that Carey and I have used, belief, for example, of course, enduring skills and personal advising team. But all that video really captures how the college is talking about itself right now. And so, Jane, I guess now it's time. We're happy to answer any questions that you all have for us.
Exactly. Kelly, if you'll unmute everyone and give everyone the possibility. I don't see any questions in the chat feature, so I'm hoping folks have questions that have cropped up in their minds.
Well, I can't say that I have any questions, but I can say that I love this strategic approach. I think the pillars, the messaging, everything about it is spot on with what particularly the current generations are looking for, and then certainly what employers are going to be looking for as well. And I think just the message itself that sends out there is such a positive message as well. And so I think in terms of attracting students, as you showed with some of the quotes from the admissions team, I think it's going to have a real impact as well. So really well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jean, did you have a question?
I did. I've worked in academia most of my life, and I'm curious how the faculty response and how you got the buy-in from faculty. I know some probably jumped on the wagon immediately and some had to be kind of pushed a little bit, but can you share something?
That is an accurate way to say it. We've been actually really excited about how the faculty have come around this. You know, there's definitely more work to do, but right in the beginning of this process, Carey and I presented this work to a group of faculty who immediately started thinking about the learning outcomes in the classroom. And we're saying things like, you know, I ask my students to do group projects. Maybe I'll start calling that teamwork. Or of course, my students have to give a presentation. That ties into communication skills. And so they were already drawing some of those connections. Tomorrow, wait, is today? No, Friday. There's an admissions event on campus where a faculty member will sit alongside a member of the college life team and talk about enduring skills and talk about the Gettysburg approach. So there's definitely some that are embracing it more than others, but we have been really, really pleased with overall how people are, how they're owning it and becoming fluent in it. Carey, what would you add to that?
No, I think that's a great response. I would say anecdotally, those faculty who have teenage children gravitated to this almost immediately and understood in a way that parents of this generation, we're seeing that general response from parents. It's not hard to sell the parents on the Gettysburg approach. Let me just tell you that right now. They're looking at those enduring skills and going, oh, yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to instill here at home. And we're looking for a place that supports that. It's a journey. If you know academic and faculty, and that's a journey. But generally speaking, there's been a good support.
And Carey, I'm gonna repeat something I've heard you say. So Carey's worked at a number of different institutions, and he said before that, well, Carey, you say, you know the thing that I'm talking about, how the community has really come around this in a way that you hadn't seen.
Yes, it's really hard, and Jean, you'll appreciate this as well, to get a community where everybody is an expert.
Mm-hmm.
They have an advanced degree to prove it.
Yep.
To sing off the same sheet of music, and I've used that phrase probably a little too much today, but that's the idea. But to get a college community to nod and say, yeah, this is who we are. This makes sense. This fits. And you don't get 100%, but you get most people going, yes, this makes sense. This feels right. And I think that's about as good as you get on a college community. You don't get unanimity.
Yeah. It seems like you've given them enough opportunity to see themselves somewhere. And
Yes.
so that whole pillar idea and then being able to correlate to what they think they've already done helps
Right.
them to buy in.
Absolutely. We're not at this point yet, but I'd love to see, some sort of support for faculty to rework their syllabus to make sure that they incorporate, at least two or three of the enduring skills in a very explicit way. that would
Mhm.
sort of be the next iteration of what I hope will happen.
And at one place I was, they gave small grants for that opportunity, and then they showcased what they were able to do for others to
Exactly. That's
proceed.
exactly the
So,
kind of thing I'm thinking about.
yeah,
Great.
great.
And
Good job.
Sarah, I'm going to interject. Sarah sends her regards in terms of a great presentation. So kudos to Jamie and Carey. And she poses a really interesting question, and I'm going to have a comment on it, and then I'll turn it over for your advice and input. She says, given the high job turnover rate in higher ed, how will you ensure that the advisors and the employees will stay for 4 years? And I think where that question kind of is headed is, how do we keep the momentum around this going? And as a new employee to the college, I'm here less than a year, I can share that I think one of the ways that this actually will happen is by making it part of our culture. And I think that is the groundswell that we're feeling. It has become within the community. And so therefore, when we have turnover through the advisors and the employees, that culture still remains. And so I will now open it up that I've shared my thoughts, and Jamie and Carey, feel free to add yours.
I like the way you answered that, Jane. I was going to say something similar. So part of employee onboarding as new employees come in, it's this presentation. Someone on my team has been giving it, but it is very much embedded in the culture, as Jane is saying. It's something they see in their first couple of weeks of campus. And so, you know, there's turnover in higher ed. There's certainly turnover in every industry. This is a unique moment in time, but I like how Jane started that. It's about how we can embed it. So when that does happen, the next person who comes in is picking it up and they're embracing it in the way that the person previously had to.
Yeah, I would completely agree with Jane and Jamie. The words "do great work," those have not always been associated with Gettysburg College. That came about in the 80s, Jamie, is that what I understand?
90s, but yeah.
90s. And it probably took some time for that to be understood and authentic, but now it's like water. And we hope that this will become much the same.
Yeah, I'll just volunteer, excuse me, that I graduated in 1981, and I feel like the concepts here have been around at the college, you know, certainly since I was there. This is wonderful that you actually named it and structured it and put some definition to it and intentionality to it. I wondered, what is the practical process that those who are opting in to the program go through? Is there a schedule of things they need to accomplish, in terms of getting together with their various advisors? And what does the program actually look like for a student?
We rolled this out about a year ago to admitted students. And as they made their commitment to come to Gettysburg, we saw 76% opt in. We can't make it a requirement because that requires the faculty to make it a requirement. And as Jean indicated, that's a process. But we also hope that over time this proves itself, so that perhaps the faculty will go, yeah, we should make this a graduation requirement. It's that important. It's also new, and it will continue to evolve a bit over time. We added the career ready experiences as a guarantee just this year, or just in the last couple of months, really, Jamie. So once students opt in, they begin, and when they arrive, they'll receive an orientation to it. They'll receive a schedule, so to speak, an agenda to meet with their advisors, their personal advising team, and to select one of the pathways. They don't have to select one pathway in their first few days at the college. We give them some time to reflect on that, which one makes the most sense for them. They need to lock that in. I believe it's toward the beginning of the sophomore year. We see that as giving them a good bit of agency to make the choices that are right for them. But they'll begin meeting with their faculty advisor, as they always have, meeting with the co-curricular advisor in that first semester, hopefully also with the career advisor in that first semester. All of that's supposed to happen. We are in our first full year of implementation. Neither Jamie nor I directly supervise it. I'm sure there have been some bumps and some learning experiences for us and for our students. We'll be better in year 2, and by years 3 and 4, we should be great. So that's the expectation over the next couple of years. Jamie, what would you add to that?
That was great. There's on the website, it shows you each of the pathways, and then there's sort of a menu of opportunities that are associated with each of the pathway. And Carey's used the word intentionality a lot, and that's so important in these pathway experiences. And part of the reason for the Gettysburg approach and the pathways and the advising teams is because we were all witnessing something that's, I think, has been true of Gettysburg for decades, where you get an email from a student, and in their signature line, so below their name, they would have 15 or 20 things that they were involved in. I mean, president of the German club, editor of the Gettysburgian, they're just stockpiling their resumes without really any connection or thread between those experiences. And then at the end of their experience, they're just sort of rattling off the things that they did without being able to talk about why they mattered and how they're going to be applicable to their next step. And so there's this menu of opportunities that the advising teams are helping them to thoughtfully select what they want to do that relates to where they want to go and who they want to become. And then be able to articulate to employers, and this part's so important, we've all been on the receiving end of a good interview and a bad interview, to be able to articulate that you weren't just the editor of the Gettysburgian, but through that work, you had to manage a group of volunteers, right? You had to show leadership. You didn't just learn how to proofread and edit, but you learned how to tell a story, right? So being able to use the words that articulate that Gettysburg experience in a way that's going to resonate with what employers know that they need.
Can you talk a little more about the co-curricular advisor? I'm still really not clear on who those people are in terms of their background, their position at the college.
Yeah, we've hired 2 co-curricular advisors with the intention of hiring, I believe, 2 to 3 more over time. The co-curricular advisors are meeting with this year's current first-year class. And they're meeting in much the way an academic advisor, a faculty member, would meet with students. The topic is a little different. And the topic is specifically helping students make choices of what to do when they're not in class, helping students see the value of those choices and connect them to each other in ways that Jamie was explaining, so that students can articulate what they've learned from being on the Gettysburgian staff. Hopefully they grow over time, over 4 years on the Gettysburgian staff. Maybe they become the editor, but they've had an experience that allows them to think about what that means and what they've gained from it. So the co-curricular advisor is helping students in a very intentional way through that process. And it's something that we believe is unique. We're not aware of other institutions that are thinking about the co-curricular experience in this way. And we think it supports our students in ways that will be invaluable to them over time. Jamie, what would you?
So they're in a specific office, and,
Yes.
and that's their full-time job. And
Yes.
then I assume that they would connect with the faculty members who are the Gettysburgian advisor or one of the athletic coaches or.
Exactly. No,
Okay,
that's
great,
yeah. To make
great.
it practical, I appreciate your point. They are well versed in how the college works outside the classroom, and they're making
Yeah.
connections and building relationships. And so they're in a position to go say, you're interested in X, you need to go talk to so-and-so about that and come back and report to me. What did you learn and what can we do
Great.
with it?
Thank you.
The other thing that we've added in the past couple of years is a new technology platform that is helping all of these advisors. They're all using a platform now called Navigate. Well, we're getting it to be 100% of people using Navigate. It's still a new platform. So when the co-curricular advisor is meeting with one of their students, the faculty advisor can see the notes from that meeting and the career advisor can see the notes from the meeting. So they can still, you know, draw those connections and using this software. So that's been a really great addition to help solidify this work.
Yes, if we had to get all the advisors to sit in the same room at one time, chaos would ensue. Would never happen.
Yeah.
This allows us it really serves as the glue for the whole idea.
Any other comments, observations, questions?
Just to
All
say
right.
thank you. This has been a really informative and excellent presentation. Thanks to all of you.
Nice. I'm
Good,
so glad to
good.
hear that.
Thank
We're
you.
happy to do
Yeah.
it.
You know.
Yep.
And I'll take a moment and thank both Jamie and Carey. Thank you both for presenting a consequential education and the Gettysburg approach to us today. I too found it very informative and insightful. But I can't close this without saying, early on in the presentation, Jamie mentioned the concept of our people. And I think both Jamie and Carey are great examples of our people. They are definitely contributing colleagues, and their dedication and their passion for their work, I think, really came through because you can see in their excitement when they speak about the topic. I hope we all walk away with a much better understanding of how the college is distinguishing itself from among its peers with this highly personal, student-centric approach to providing a consequential education.